I'd like to introduce you to one of my favorite watches. It's the Bulova Precisionist with this very striking industrial design and fantastic quartz movement. The company that we now know as Bulova today was founded in America in the late 1800s. It made a name for itself as being a brand that provided very good quality timepieces that were mass produced, and they marketed them very effectively using the new mediums very early on, for example radio and television. In the 1920s, Charles Lindbergh, when he completed the first non-stop transatlantic flight, was provided with not only a check for $1,000 but a Bulova timepiece as well. Moving forward to the space age, the first watches on the moon, as you may know, were Omega watches, but Bulova definitely had a competition there with Omega. And whilst it wasn't the first watch to the moon, it did make it there in 1971 aboard Apollo 15. And whilst the captain, David Scott, was out on a lunar walk, the crystal from his Omega Speedmaster popped off and he used a backup watch. And that backup watch that he chose was his Bulova watch. That then later sold for $1.6 million at auction not too long ago. Let's take a closer look at the watch itself. We'll start with this very substantial stainless steel strap, all held in with this clasp here. So if we fold it round, it simply clips in, fix it in place. And of course, to remove it, we'll lift this flap up. There's two buttons on the bottom and it comes away. At the bottom of the watch, we also have the Bulova logo engraved at the bottom here. And the bracelet itself is quite unusual. It has the black inlay scored down the middle, sandwiched between two shiny pieces of stainless steel and the brushed effect stainless steel as well on the outsides. Moving towards the watch, we have the screw style crown with the Bulova logo, a very thick patterned black bezel which matches the inlay on the strap, four very industrial looking bolts, and this carries on through. You can see those exposed looking screw heads on the 24-hour dial here. And on the face we have a very simple date showing today's date highlighted by the red arrow, yesterday and tomorrow's date. The Bulova fork makes another appearance here at 12 o'clock. Well, what really makes this watch stand out, I think, is the fantastic quartz movement of the Precisionist. You can see this very smooth, sweeping second hand, and this is a lot smoother than many automatic watches. For example, if we take the Invicta, you can see just how much smoother the Precisionist is compared to the automatic movement in the diver's watch. And quartz movements, as we often are familiar with, they tick individually each second in a non-sweeping motion. So this really does set it out. And in terms of accuracy, this movement is accurate to plus or minus 10 seconds in a year. Again, for a quartz movement, that's very, very unusual. Quartz movements can lose kind of 6 or gain 6 seconds in a month often. That's not too unusual. The risk they take with big watches, I always think, is it can come off as a little bit over the top for the sake of being over the top. And I think with this colour, Precisionist without the chronograph, it actually balances out quite well. The carbon fibre doesn't look over the top. The grooves here for the date surrounding it, this charcoal, it all kind of comes together quite well, and it's very easy to get this wrong, as you can see on many other larger watches, even watches that cost many more times than this. There's a little bit too much going on, but I think Bulova really does balance this out very, very well. As you'd expect for such a substantially built watch, you definitely do know that you're wearing this watch. There's a weight to it. It's far heavier than the diver's watch or any other watch that I've worn regularly in the past, but it's not uncomfortable. It has a very good wrist feel actually. The weight is just right, and I've worn this for very long periods of time and it's definitely not uncomfortable. And it's worn very well. It's a big watch, so it's easier to kind of knock, and it's 3.5 years. It looks pretty much as it did out the box, save for a few marks in the usual places, especially underneath the clasp here. When we look at comparing the size of this watch, the diver's watch is by no means a small watch. It is quite a big watch in itself. but it's completely dwarfed next to the Bulova. Not just in terms of the face, but also the height of the watch and how it sits, but especially the strap. The strap on the Invicta is fairly thick, but it really does look tiny when compared to this. While this might not be an everyday watch, the Precisionist is a fantastic timepiece. It's incredibly comfy to wear. It has a very solid weighted feel to it. And I think for the price, it's an incredible timepiece. I'd certainly recommend it for anybody who wouldn't usually be drawn to quartz movements.